When Elizabeth and I met, she told me Kim had obviously expected her to be begging him coming back and forgive him without any further comments. When she told him about me, he had got a big laugh and said, "That poor wimp, I'll scare thee out of him so he doesn't dare even to look at you from that moment, that's for sure." Elizabeth had obviously gathered some information about me from her friends because she had replied, "Better you ask Madeline Johnson what Robert did to the golf pro and the greenkeeper when they both together attempted to attack him at a Christmas party at the golf club." The arrogant Kim, who obviously had hot intentions for Madeline, had accepted her suggested divorce and signed the papers she had obtained her earlier that day. Then Elizabeth had me to promise not to make any first step to attack Kim. I agreed because I wanted to be a good friend with Kevin if I got any further chance with Elizabeth, and hurting her boy's father had been a very stupid thing to do under such circumstances. Before we parted, she invited me to her house at Friday evening for playing Trivial Pursuit with a new set of cards her sister had bought. I accepted and understood that it would be a very important evenings in my life. TP is a light game, but not so well read people do very poorly. Madeline had her own things to do at Friday, why I had to bring the kids with me to Elizabeth's house. Elizabeth's sister and her husband was a jolly couple, why we had a pleasant evening. I won the first round and I think Elizabeth was happy about that so she could show her relatives that her new friend was equipped with at least some brains and common sense. The next round was between couples as a team. Elizabeth and I was the winning team after we had been lucky to get the right questions during a long time. The truth is she was at least as clever as me. The most important matter for me during that round was how easy it was for Elizabeth and me to cooperate without any serious arguing. We had a good time, and her sister invited us to her place next week for getting even. When the kids and I was ready to go home, Elizabeth gave me a real bear hug and whispered in my ear, "I love you." "I love you too," I replied and gave her a quick kiss. One step forward, but obviously still a long way to the goal. If you're enjoying my content, consider joining my Patreon community. By becoming a patron, you'll get access to full parts of my videos much earlier than everyone else. Plus, you'll be supporting me to create even more awesome content for you. Check out the link in the description to join now. Elizabeth spent the weekend with her parents, and so did even Madeline, while I went to a party with some single friends, but got home alone from the bar. Elizabeth and I exchanged several text messages during the weekend. She called me darling and wanted to know what I had done that evening, and she got the truth. Monday was my lucky day because one of my co-workers had a theater package for two, including a coach trip, tickets to a popular musical, and a night at a downtown business hotel in our capital city, which she couldn't use due to some late upcoming more important event. I bought her packages without a second of hesitation. Then I rang Elizabeth and invited her to come with me. She promised to say yes if I could answer some questions about what it would cost her and if there were any conditions included in my kind offer. I understood she wanted to know if there were any demand of S and replied, "My dear, you don't need to worry. There are no hidden charges, traps, or demands of anything. Only an invitation for seeing that famous musical. Darling, it will be a great pleasure," she said, and that got me both happy and wondering if there ever would be any with her, or could that lovely woman be frigid? That could explain why Kim had seduced Madeline. However, I decided to act as a real good guy whatever happened during this trip and let her travel at her own speed. When comparing our agendas for that week, we didn't found any evening we could spend together, but we had lunch together Tuesday and Thursday and decided to meet at the coach station at Saturday morning. We met and she was in a jolly mood, why I expected it to be a great weekend, and that was right. Both of us agreed that the musical was much better than expected, and the dinner after that at a nice restaurant was very romantic. After that, we went to the piano bar at our hotel for a drink. Elizabeth said no thanks to second drink and asked me about my opinion about the trip so far. "It can't be better. I've loved every minute of it," was my honest reply. After that, she suggested going to our room for talking about some matters before calling it night. I had booked a room with 2 beds and accepted what I thought was her decision without any objections, thinking, what will be will be. Coming into our room, Elizabeth said, "I love you, Robert," and sat down at the sofa. "I love you, Elizabeth," was my reply before sitting down beside her. She asked, "Got any plans for the future, and how is Madeline involved in your plans? Could you please be kind enough to tell me the truth because I've heard some rumors?" Madeline and I have filed for divorce, and we agreed I will be selling my part of the house that we own together to her. Of course, there are even several matters about our children what we have to decide together. I said, what about taking her back? The rumor says about Madeline telling her friends that you will take her back quite soon. Please remember that you promised tell me the truth, Elizabeth said with a worried expression in her face. I've already taken her back once, back before we got Matilda when it was close to divorce, and I will not do that mistake again. Believe me, that's for sure. I told her. I believe you. Do you have any plans about you and me? She asked with a smile. I do love you and want to marry you. If you think either of us is just a rebound, that can wait. We need to be two for that tango. Let's do it together and turn my sweet dreams to real plans. But before doing that, I have to ask a question. What might be painful for you? And I beg you to tell me the truth, even if it might hurt. Will you tell me the truth? That unexpected question got her worried. She replied, whatever you ask. I promise to tell you the truth. I've been thinking why Kim gave up a wonderful wife as you so incredible easy without any real efforts to win you back. There must been some serious problem in your marriage. What got him cheating you and caring so little about a divorce from such a wonderful woman as you really are? Have you cheated him and he found out that? I had to ask her that. Elizabeth began to cry and sobbed. Yes, I've done that once after getting boozed and stupid at a Christmas party, and he's never forgiven me for that. Are you going to dump me now? No, not at all. It is most important for us that you told me the truth so we can throw out all skeletons from the closet and begin our relation from scratch. I love you, Elizabeth, and what Kim and you did before we met is a history that doesn't concern you and me. Do you still love me though you found out I'm just as Madeline? She asked, still sobbing. Yes, Elizabeth. I love you, and there are a huge difference between what Madeline and you did. She did it several times, planned carefully in advance. You did a stupid one-time mistake what you probably regretted as hell. Besides, I am also divorcing because Madeline is not happy with me, and I feel the same about here. Adultery put the end to the sentence. Don't you think we've talked enough of the past now, and it is high time to have some talk about dreams and plans for our future? What about Kim? Have you any intentions about fighting with him for what he did to your pride? She asked. Nothing about Kim, because a good relation to Kevin is much more important for me than a silly vendetta with his father. Besides, he did me 2 favors, ending a bad marriage and showing me the way to a good one. That reply gave me a bright smile. Is a baby included in your dreams? Do you remember that you promised me a baby? Is that promise still valid after my confession about Ben A? She asked. I used to keep me promises and am going to do my very best about our baby, but don't you think we need to be living together for a while to be taking the best care of that baby? Are you ready for that? Yes, I am. Are you? Was her next question, and she began to smile again. One can never win any important matters without daring to take chances. Though I hardly knew much about Elizabeth, I got a feeling that it was high time to act and do it now. I got down on my knees, looked straight in her eyes and said, Elizabeth, I love you very much and ask you, do you want to marry me? That was totally unexpected for her, and it took several seconds before she replied. Yes, Robert, I love you and want to marry you. We stood up for intensive hugging and kissing. A few minutes later, she was standing topless, and I saw her for the first time. Still standing beside the bed, she began undressing me, and when she had went the whole way, she got down on her knees. It was impossible for me to take it any longer. After a short resting, we did it again, and this time it lasted quite longer. Elizabeth was a very good lover, and as both of us were in love, we did our best to make it to a night to remember. After a great good morning, Elizabeth got a bright smile and asked, What will happen now when we are back home? Skip your pills so we can begin making our love, baby, I replied with my best smile. It was my heart specking, but our brain knew both of us were involved in divorces. We even had a lot of other matters to think about. Madeline and Rupert bought my share of the house for a much higher price that they had expected, and Kim Sturbin moved into Madeline's as some kind of a lodger. He got as a pain in the ass to Rupert, demanding him to do all kinds of maintenance work on Madeline's house. Elizabeth and I had found a perfect house for our new, soon-to-be a family with 4 children. The shared custody went on very well, with both Madeline and Kim cooperating. But an unexpected matter hit our town only 2 months later when the owners of the company where Madeline and Kim worked surprised everybody by making a quick deal and sold it to a big multinational company. For Madeline, it meant a quantum leap upwards on the corporate ladder as she was promoted to a top job at the main office. Her new job included much traveling abroad and moving to an apartment near the main office in our capital city. Back in hometown, she kept 2 rooms for own use in her house and rented out the remaining area to Rupert and her mother. Kim couldn't stay any longer in my old house with Rupert when Madeline was away, why he shared a 2-room apartment with a coworker until he found something better. Even he got new duties in the new organization, what meant a lot of traveling visiting customers. Not many chances for Madeline and him neither to see each other, nor to be able to continue to have shared custody of the children. Elizabeth and I took over the whole custody for all children with fair visiting rights to Madeline and Kim, who even got right having them every second main holiday if they wanted. Those new custody rules was very unexpected for both Elizabeth and me, but we accepted it with great pleasure. Sometimes it was impossible for me not to think what might happen if Madeline and I'd been married when she got the promotion to her dream job to travel all over the world. What had she chosen, the job or the family? I didn't ask her about such matters, but one day when Madeline returned the kids after a week-end visit, she surprised me by saying, "I'm happy after getting a real dream job, but had I understood what high price my cheating would cost me, I had never given it as much as a single thought." What could I say? My simple reply was, done is done and can't be undone, and the only thing we can do today is to look forward and enjoy what the future will give us. Then Madeline surprised me by asking, "Are you happy now, Robert?" "Yes, I am. Thanks to Elizabeth, I've got a fair life back. Please remember that you hit me down to the 9 count at the hospital when I understood that you came straight from your lover's bed, and you even kicked me hard again while I was still down from the first blow when I begged you to save our marriage and skip F. Kim at the seminar. But you didn't give as much as a rotten lingonberry for my feelings. But marriage is only part of life. Are you happy now, Madeline?" I asked her. She replied with a low voice, "No and yes. Kim was a terrible mistake, what I've regretted while crying during many sleepless nights. But I'm happy for Elizabeth and you taking good care of our children, and I'm happy for my life and my new job. Elizabeth and I married a week after both our divorces were final, and she is pregnant with our very much expected baby. It is an incredible love story. I could never believe that my positive feelings for Elizabeth when we first met for talking about our spouses cheating would lead to a happy marriage. Elizabeth and Kim's old neighbors have refused to choose side in the divorces and invited both of them with new spouses to their annual barbecue. Kim arrived alone, and when somebody asked about his girlfriend, he simply said that he thought she was in China for business reasons. Both Elizabeth and I got the same impression that he didn't look happy at all. Elizabeth and I had a good time during the whole evening, what most of her old friends noted, and congratulated her for getting happy with her pregnancy. A few drinks later in the evening, when I met Kim in the bar tent, he said, "Congratulations, you are the winner in our damn mess." I could only agree with him and responded sincerely,